Hello. Today is all about parenting on the same page. So if you want your spouse, your husband, your wife to speak the same language with you in parenting, if you share the same vision or you want them to see your vision, you want them to adopt your parenting style, you want them to be with you on the same page, this is what you need to do. You need to sit back and watch this video from the beginning to the end. It's actually brought to you by PAC, Parenting Accountability Community. Now, some time ago, I saw a post on Facebook. A woman was asking how she could undo what was already done. Her underage children had seen inappropriate contents on their phone. What happened was her husband actually got them the phone against her advice. He got them the phone and he also allowed them to share his hotspots at will. Now, they had seen the content and it was even stored in their phone. And guess what? The husband came back to blame her. Oh, you didn't install parental guidance. You didn't teach them, sex educate them properly. You didn't program their mind not to be curious when they see things like this. Really? So today is all about how to get your spouse to speak the same language. If only the man had understood what she meant by don't give them phones yet, they are not children, probably the man would have listened, they would have been on the same page. So she would not be running and seeking for help. So if you have a spouse who doesn't seem to flow or you are not on the same frequency in parenting, you want to watch this video. And if you know anyone who is also always talking about not having his or her spouse on the same page, you also want to share this link so that they can also benefit from you. At the end of the day, you are going to get the tips, the hacks, and everything you need to have your spouse on the same page. My name is Enimia Orebo, and this is Parenting with Enimia Orebo, and this is brought to you by Parenting Accountability Community, the visionary parents, the parents who have a vision for the future, the parents who are ready to walk the path that actually leads to their parenting vision. The Visionary Parents Academy is a community you definitely want to join. It's a community for every parent who has a vision for their parenting, who have a vision for their children. And guess what? At the end of this video, visionary parents are going to get a worksheet to further help them get this thing sorted. They're going to get a worksheet to actually help them put this thing in motion so that at the end of the day, they are going to have their spouses on the same page with them, smashing the same parenting goals. Okay, let's talk about a few things first of all. One of the very first things I want to establish here is the fact that everyone has that area of expertise. It is true. Some people are more knowledgeable in some fields than others. It is true. So as a family, it may be that you, the wife or the husband, is more knowledgeable when it comes to parenting. It is because of your temperament. You are naturally like a peaceful, calm, attentive person. It is because of the way you were nurtured. You were nurtured in a certain environment that just nurtured this thing in you. It may be because you've been exposed to so much knowledge, research, and a lot of material. So you just have a superior knowledge of parenting compared to your husband. So there are people that have superior knowledge in different fields. So one of the very first things I want to tell you as a parent is that know your area, know where you have superior knowledge. And if your superior knowledge is parenting, you actually want your spouse to know that. And one of the things you can do, this is one of the very simplest things you can do. One of the things you can do is to also have your spouse identify his area of superiority, where he has superior knowledge over you. And guess what? Because you want him to trust in your superior knowledge of parenting, you also want to trust in his superior knowledge in that area. So because you don't want him to always argue with you when it comes to parenting, you don't also argue with him when it comes to that area. This is one of the tricks I'm just teaching you. It's just like division of labor. Everyone has his own area of expertise. So imagine if your spouse is someone who has superior knowledge when it comes to finances now. And when it comes to making financial decisions, you rely on him, you rely on him or her. You make him or her know that, hey, this is your area. So whatever you say, let's look at it. Whatever you say, you have the finance say. it gives your spouse the confidence to also want to come and consult you and rely on you when it comes to parenting, which is your area of superior knowledge. This is the first hack. I was supposed to say it at the end of the video, but excuse me, I want to start with this so that you will understand that. You will know that. You will set the motion based on that. When you respect your spouse's area of knowledge, your spouse is more giving to respecting your area of knowledge. So establish that and begin to respect your spouse's area of expertise, or area, not expertise now, that's not the right word, area of superior knowledge. That is hack number 1 to get your spouse to speak the same parenting language with you. You won't get this anywhere, not even in any school, not even any parenting coach will tell you what I just told you. You see why you need to stay on this channel. If you have not subscribed, subscribe. We have value here. Check our previous videos. You have value here. Master classes like this one is going to be. If at the end of this class you are not able to get your spouse on the same page, just come back to me. Unsubscribe, come back to me and say whatever. So let's talk about the issue, the disadvantages of not being on the same page. One of them is inconsistency. You are not consistent with your rules, with your structures, with your regulations and all of that. Imagine a family where one parent will say, okay, bedtime or curfew is 7 p.m. and the other one will say, I beg, leave it, Jerry, let it be 9 p.m. or anytime they like, let them come in. What do you think will happen? Nah. And guess what? Children have a way of tilting towards the one that pleases them, and the one that pleases them is the one that is always having the standard lowered. Then there'll be clash in the marriage, and children will be confused. And guess what? Some children, very many children, because I've seen this happen practically. If you've read my book, Understanding Your Child, you will see where I share stories of this, where inconsistency in parenting can actually lead to a lot of factors. One of them is the child will always want to take advantage of that. They want to take advantage of that. They want to teach towards a parent who is more allowing. So even when the parent is making a decision or is making a choice that is not favorable, that does not align with their vision, eventually the child wants to tilt towards that, and the child can also easily disobey the other parent. Imagine a situation where the parent says, okay, no snack now, no snack. The child will say, okay, no snack now, don't worry, I'll wait for mommy, I'll wait for daddy, they'll give me snack. So they can also bring the heads of the two parents together, make the parents, some children that are manipulative, they'll make the parents always argue. Yes, I say no, you say yes, you always begin to argue up and down. That can create a heated atmosphere, a heated environment. It is not a stable environment to raise a child. No. Not being consistent, not being on the same page results to instability, if that's the right word now, and it's not a good environment to actually raise a child. So one of the reasons you actually want to be on the same page. Another reason is it doesn't model teamwork. It doesn't model teamwork. However you want to see it, you may think, oh, it is just in the space of marriage. No. Your child is learning. The family is the mini society, the first society the child is exposed to. So the child learns a great deal, everything your child needs to navigate the bigger society successfully. The child is learning. So your child needs teamwork to succeed in today's society. And there's no teamwork in the family. How will the child learn teamwork practically? So your child will not learn teamwork. Your child will learn competition, because it will see mommy and daddy are always in a competition with each other. So your child will learn competition. Your child will learn to play favoritism, play to one person who is more likely to oblige them. So it is a whole lot of disadvantage when you are not on the same page. Why do parents struggle to be on the same page? Because very many parents already know the effects of not being on the same page, yet they still struggle to be on the same page. One of the major factors we can never take away from parenting is temperament, or not just parenting. We can never take away from individual, we can never take away from personality. We can never take away from life, from living, from anything is temperament. A person's temperament plays a key role on how the person behaves. Your choices, they are a factor of a reflection of your temperament. Now, your temperament plays a key role. There are some temperament that they always just want to be cool, like the sanguine parents. A typical sanguine parent wants to be liked. They want to be liked by their children. They want to be liked by their spouse. They want to be liked by anyone at all. So because of that, their inner need to be liked, they can do anything, including lowering their standard. Now, this is where you need to get my book, Understanding Your Child. If you are a parent, you need to get it. This book will teach you about yourself as a parent. We teach you about your children, and we teach you from their small till when they get to adulthood. You know exactly what to expect and what to do. And it's a lot more than that. So temperament, like the sanguine parents, for example, who always wants to be cool, who wants to be liked, they can do anything to get their children's attention, to get their children to approve them, to validate them, to like them, including lowering their standard. So temperament is a key factor. Another temperament is choleric. Choleric, who want to be boss, who want to be the boss all the time, even when, because of the pride they kind of have. Remember, this temperament I'm referring to is in their crude form. Someone who has disciplined himself, who has become intentional, will not readily give in to their temperament weakness. But the person who has not will readily give in to their temperament weakness. Again, this is why Understanding Your Child comes in, that will help you know what to do to be intentional about your temperament. So like a choleric parent, for example, they always want to be the boss. They want to be the boss. They want to be the one to call the shot or something like that. In this kind of situation, it's going to be a struggle. And another thing is they are not very patient people. So it is going to be a struggle for them to understand what their spouse is saying, for them to give in, because they always want to be the boss. They are kind of opinionated. Is my way or no other way? Even if the other way makes more sense, it will not make sense to them because it has to be their way. And they always feel, oh, I definitely know it. Talk about the melancholic, who has standards, who lowering standard is a problem, who, if they are not intentional, they want to tilt towards being closed-minded if they are not intentional. Look at that. Look at phlegmatic also, who kind of are quietly stubborn. So temperament is definitely a factor, is one of the reasons why parents struggle to parent on the same page. Another reason parents clash to be on the same page is because of their upbringing, the way they were nurtured, the way they were raised. Were raised in an era that the culture for raising children was almost the same. So imagine someone who has lived 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that is what you know. Let's take discipline, for example. We'll have one parent who says, no, don't flog my child. Another parent says, okay, I don't mind my child being flogged. Now, let's look at it, where it's coming from. You were raised in an era where, or your spouse was raised in an era where everybody was flogged. Flogging was a part of parenting, was a major and integral part of parenting. The parents around flog their children. You were flogged. A lot of things happen. Now, remember, I always say that it is not always about what you do. It's about how your child interprets it. Now, your spouse is going to interpret those things that were done in the process of raising him. Depending on your child's temperament, your spouse may reinterpret it differently from you. Now, this is why we have things like, oh, I turned out well. I was flogged, I turned out well. And someone will say, oh, I was flogged, I did not turn out well. Now, because of your temperament and some other factors, you are interpreting it differently. So, if your spouse was nurtured in a certain way, they are definitely going to interpret it differently. And this interpretation will form how they are going to raise your child. We form how they are going to raise your child. So the way a person was nurtured or a person was raised is definitely a factor that comes to play when the person is parenting. And it's one of the reasons why parents struggle to be on the same page. The next factor is not having enough knowledge, lack of knowledge. Some people don't believe, oh, they should research on parenting, they should take a course on parenting, they should read a book about parenting. They don't believe in that. They just believe, oh, I was raised, I turned out well, I'm going to raise like that. So the less knowledge they have, the more likely they are going to wallow in ignorance. The more likely they are going to repeat, they are going to do certain things. So I always say to parents that if you are developing, no matter the area, whether in your parenting, in your spiritual life, in your career, whatever the area you are growing, carry your spouse along, carry your partner along, grow together. Just don't sit back. I've heard of parents who, she was in a parenting community, taking all the parenting lessons she was learning, and she was trying to apply them. And one day her husband told her, is it because of this school you are not, these classes you are not taking, you're not telling me I cannot flog my child? You know, it was an issue. The husband told her that these classes, they are spoiling you, they are making you disobey me. Because when the husband now wants to smack the child, the mom kinds of comes in the way to say, no, don't smack, this is not the way. The husband gets upset and says, oh, you are disobeying me, you are talking back, or you are challenging me because of these things you are taking. Why? Because she was growing, she was not carrying her husband along. So that knowledge gap will always bring a misunderstanding. So this is why I say, whenever you are growing, you start your self-growth mission as much as you can, carry your spouse along. It is important. I hope I remember to share how you can carry your spouse along later. So lack of knowledge is another reason why there is parents don't parent on the same page. Before you even think of carrying your spouse along, the first thing you want to do is to make sure you are even on the right path. You are even doing the right thing. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a vision. You want to sit back and reflect on your parenting choices. Why do I think my choices are superior? Why do I think my expectations, my patterns are superior? You know, what is my vision? You want to reflect on that. You want to understand your vision. You want to make sure that your choices actually align with your vision. That is the very first thing you want to do. So you don't want to start trying to carry your husband along, and then you now realize that it has been it's a wasted journey. My husband has joined me all the while, and we are just doing rubbish, or we are just doing nonsense. You know, so you want to first of all make sure that you are on the right path. And how do you know this? You want to sit down and create your parenting vision. You create your parenting vision. You want to create your parenting framework. You want to identify your values that will lead to your vision, and then create your parenting framework. Now, this is what we do in PAC. In the Visionary Parent Academy, will help you create your parenting vision, will help you create your parenting framework, and of course, will take you through a journey of emotional intelligence, that at the end of the day, you are going to be emotionally intelligent as a parent, to make sure that, because it's one thing to have a vision, it's one thing to have a framework, it's another thing to actually be able to uphold those values, those framework that will bet your vision. So the very first thing you want to do as a parent, you want to create your vision. Yes. You sit back. I have a video on vision in this group. You want to check it out. You want to sit back and say, okay, what kind of child do I want to raise at the end of the day? Let's look at it. What kind of child do I want to raise? You want to be very clear on that. When you are very clear on that, then you will start learning, exposing yourself to knowledge, empower yourself with skills to be able to walk that path. And I'll tell you why as we progress. Now, after understanding the understanding of what you actually want and how to get there, the next thing you want to do is to carry your husband along officially. So now, one of the very first things you want to do is to empower yourself with skills. I said that, and is to expose yourself to knowledge. Now, one very trick you will use that I use to achieve this is to, whenever you are listening to a parenting message like this one now, what you will do is just be beside your husband, maybe in your quiet time, just reduce the volume. You are listening to it, he's listening to it. Oh, I've done that a lot of times, very many. I remember on my paid courses, my consultations and everything, I'll just let them be playing while he's there. You know, he's there listening to me. So even when he's sleeping or something, he's listening to me. I'm listening, I'm taking my notes and doing everything. At the end of the day, I will now tell him that I'll just kind of ask him the questions. What do you think? Do you think this is this? Do you think? I remember one time I was listening to Praise PF, you know, and my husband was there and he was listening. I thought he was even sleeping. I didn't know he was listening. So at the end, Praise said something that actually caught his attention, and he now spoke out. So that was where I knew, oh, so this man, you are listening. That is it. Actually, I also have taken a class before on, I don't remember the class, and I actually thought he was sleeping because I just couldn't go and get my earpod to listen. So I just was there listening, reduce the volume. So, and halfway, he just kind of re-echoed what the coach was saying. It was a business course. I don't remember the name. Now he re-echoed what the coach was saying. So this man, you have been listening. You too go and apply these strategies to your business. So that is one of the things you want to do, because human beings naturally, our behaviors are a reflection of the information we hear and our experiences. So what you want to do, you want to deliberately program your husband's information. So you have like different coaches like you are listening to. You just make sure that, okay, he is there. They sip in gradually. You think, oh, he's not listening. He's listening. He's not thinking them through. One day he will think them through. I have a mom in Park. She was in Park last year, and she said something that she didn't even know her husband was paying attention to all the parenting she was listening to and all of that. So one day she was singing one song. She had a song list on her phone. So one day the thing was playing, and then it got to one particular song. That was the first day I heard the song. When she mentioned it, she said the song was like Small Nyash They Shake, something like that. So her husband told her, don't play this song now. So you, after all this your parenting, this is the kind of song you are playing for your children. That was the day she got the awakening that this man, even though this man his behaviors have not reflected that she's on a visionary parenting journey, the man actually have been paying attention. So you want to carry your spouse along by using this trick I just shared with you. Another thing you want to do that I did was you commit to reading books. As you are reading books, you just like pick a topic from the book, you just discuss it, like you want to seek his opinion, whether he agrees, whether he doesn't agree. You can even choose not to agree. If your husband is very oppositional, there are people that are naturally oppositional. If your husband is oppositional, your wife is oppositional, what you want to do is to pick a very catchy topic that you know that it's going to make a difference. You oppose it. Then you hear his opinion. If he's a very oppositional, he's going to come from the other side. Example will be a temperament. If we're going to use my book, Understanding Your Child, you can pick the book and say, temperament. Does temperament really define how people behave? See, you just start giving examples from the book. Is this about temperament? It's not about temperament. Anybody of any temperament could have behaved like this. Your husband can come and say, no, people are different, or your spouse, rather. I'm saying your husband because it's wives that always have these issues of their husbands not with them on the same page. So you have, no, everyone is different, and there's something called temperament. It affects the way you do this, it affects the way you do this, and all of that. You can start from there. From there, you can now break it, kind of see a way to link his own behavior to it. Second trick, use books. If your husband is oppositional, if your wife is oppositional, you actually want to set them up against themselves. Is a trick that is very effective. I've recommended it to very many parents and it has worked for them. Now the next one I want to talk about is, I call it set him up to shoot himself on the foot. It's just like similar to what I talked about using books. This one is unstructured again. Now remember, these ones are unstructured. Now we are going to go to the structured way of carrying your spouse along. These ones, even if they are structured by you, but you are just doing them spontaneously, they are unplanned. That's what makes them unstructured. So this one, you want to just set your spouse up, let him talk about how he was raised. You're talking about how you were raised, the parenting choices the parents made. Let's again go to discipline, because one of the major issues parents have where they don't get along is indulging their children, either using discipline or granting their children's requests or needs. Now these are the two major areas. They will also talk about other things like schools, clothes, and all of that. Those are always minor, but the major one is granting their children's needs and discipline. So that's why we are using discipline over and over again. So discipline is another area. You are talking about how he was raised, how you were raised. Talk about the discipline the parents use. They flogged me. Let your husband talk about the flogging, how the impact of the flogging. They flogged me one day. I had to run away from the house and for a couple of hours, before I came back. things like that. And you two will talk about flogging. Or if your spouse is constantly yelling at your children, that's your complaint. You want to talk about, my parents used to yell. I remember each time they yell at me, I never really liked it. For example, if I was having this conversation with my husband, I'm going to talk about comparing. If he's someone that compares my children, I'm going to talk about comparing. I'm going to tell him that, growing up, I was really compared. My parents used to compare me with a particular family and all of that. And at the end of the day, I never really liked it. It hurt my self-esteem. We are going to talk about all of this. Now, why are we talking about all of this? Or why are you talking about all of this? Because many people believe that the way they were raised, they turned out well. But when they sit back to reflect it, to see the immediate effect, how those things affected them, how it endangered their life. You remember, imagine a child, a spouse who says that he was flogged and he ran away from the house. Now, if it is this time you are flogged and you run away from the house, a lot of things can easily happen to you. Get kidnapped in this era, you actually want him to talk about these things. When he or she has finished talking about these things and the effect it has on them, you don't even have to say it on that day. Another day, you come up with the same issue, talking about how your spouse may actually be raising his or her children the way he or she was raised. And the effect of these things. Let's talk about people have low self-esteem, even though they don't want to admit it. People are, a common one would be you have a spouse who is a perfectionist, who is afraid to make mistakes, who is not a risk taker, and all of that. You know that, and maybe your spouse knows that because he knows himself. If your spouse is self-aware, he or she will know that. So now you want to link it up to how he was raised. It could be because you were not allowed to make mistakes. It could be because you were constantly being flogged, being nagged at, and all of that. Now, it could be all of that that has come to play in why you are not self-sure, why you don't have confidence in the things you do, or why you think about one issue over and over and over again before you decide on it. So you want to look at that. And then you also want to look at how your spouse is reenacting those parenting choices or parenting styles and how it's likely going to affect your children. So let's go into the structured way to carry your spouse along. Now, I have a book on parenting on the same page. You need to get that book. I think it's just 1,000 naira. It's somewhere on seller, and you can check my WhatsApp status if you follow me. And I'll leave my number at this comments. Then you can get, or even on the screen. Yes, you can ask me for the book. I think it's just 1,000 naira. It will take you step by step on how to carry your husband along, your wife along, and the adults in your environment along to help you parent on the same page. Now, the issue about it is when you parent on the same page, you are multiplying the voices in your child's head. I don't know if I said this at the beginning of the video. The word is always talking, telling your child, teaching your child things you may not want your child to learn. And one of the ways you can bring your child to uphold your values is to increase the voices in his head that speak your language, that speak your value, that uphold your value. So your spouse has to uphold your values. If you have a nanny, if you have adults living with you, they have to uphold your values. If you have you can also create a community of friends, of parents who share the same value, so that you can all have that same value in your child's head. That is one of the reasons why you definitely need to be on the same page with your spouse and everyone around you. And I have a book that will easily help you. It's like a hold you by your hand book. So you need to reach me with this number on the screen to get the book. So let's go into the structured way of carrying your spouse along. So let's go into bringing your spouse to parent with you on the same page, a structured way. Now, one of the first things you want to do is to create an atmosphere that is comfy, that is relaxing, that is calm. Now, this is what I recommend in your family traditions. Have something like this: family meetings. Just a meeting for you and your spouse, a meeting for you and just one of your kids, basically. And this would have different family traditions for different purposes. when we create our family framework, we actually have family traditions in it. And family framework is one of the things we do for you at the Visionary Parent Academy. When you join us, we help you create your family framework. Or rather, we don't help you because your family is unique. We actually guide you to help you create your family framework. So one of the things you want to do is to create that time, a cool environment, a comfy, calm, and all of that, where you and your spouse, you sit down. The theme of that meeting or hangout between you two is just to talk about your parenting. You sit down and you create. Remember your parenting vision you created. Remember I told you create your vision, your skill up yourself, empower yourself, and all of that. This is where you are going to use it, so that in this meeting, when you are talking from a place of knowledge. You are talking from a place of in-depth knowledge, a place of superior knowledge. You have your fact. You have done a great deal of research. Now, this is why in the Visionary Parent Academy, we do research. Twice a month, we do research. One, we read books. Of course, there are research resources. We come and review them. The other one we look at one personality in the society that is breaking ground, standing out. We review them too. Want to see how they were parented, something about them we can actually learn to put in our parenting. And have this meeting and start by talking about your parenting vision, your future dream and desire for your children. Now remember, you want to carry your spouse along, and one of the things you want to do is to listen more than talk. Do the questioning, do the open-ended questioning and all of that, and listen. Let him talk, let her talk, and listen. One of the things you want to do from there, both of you, if you have a biro and a paper, which I recommend, you start creating your vision. Write your vision. I tell parents, sit back and ask yourself, in 50 years time, how old will be my child? Where will my child be in 50 years time? In 40 years time, where will my child be? You know, my child is 11 years old now. A time will come when my child will finish school and he will be faced with job hunting or something. Do I want my child to job hunt? Do I want him to be an entrepreneur? If I want him to be an entrepreneur who will not necessarily carry certificate from one place to the other, that where he's not sure he will get a job in a country like Nigeria, what do? I need to start empowering him with the entrepreneurial mindset and skills, so that by that time he will want this. You want to sit back and think about it. Okay, my child may decide, okay, I want to be a lecturer tomorrow. When he becomes a lecturer tomorrow, and then what are the things that happens? What are the peculiarities? What are some of the things that trend? Okay, lecturers, they always want to a feminine favor in exchange of grades. It happens a great deal. When that time comes, how will my child act? How do I want my child to act? Okay, when it comes to health, for example, I just read that, okay, my child may choose to be an actor tomorrow or a footballer or something. I just read that an actor was banned, also has been suspended for drug use or drug abuse or things like that. When my child gets to that position, will my child be vulnerable to drug use? You know, this is how you create your vision. Your spouse is there. Both of you are discussing it together. Your vision has to capture the realities of life. It's not just an imaginary vision. Your vision has to capture the fact that, okay, my child may actually now become an entrepreneur, and he may face stiff competition, he may face grants, he may face... Those are things you just sit down and you reflect on them with your spouse. Vision, create it, as in see the future of your child. Both of you sit back together and look at it. Because the truth of the matter is, you make a lot of sacrifices. You want to travel maybe for summer, and you look at your money, see what the country is saying now. I cannot afford this because school fees is there, a lot of things are there, healthcare for my children and all of that. You see a flashy car you can put your money together to buy. You say, oh, this is not a priority. My children's school fees and all of that is a priority. You think about all of that. So you are making a great deal of sacrifices. So these sacrifices you are making, they have to amount to, you have to be rewarded. You have to see the results. And by reward, I don't mean monetary thing. You just want the fulfillment that comes with knowing that you raise a successful, happy child, fulfilled child, is enough reward for very many parents, you know, and it's going to be enough reward for me. So you actually want to sit back and you and your spouse envision your parenting. That is the very first thing you want to do. Another thing you want to do again, you want to reflect on your parenting so far, your spouse's parenting, your parenting. You want to reflect on your parenting and ask yourself, does this my parenting, will it bet this vision? Will it bet this vision, for example? So you want to talk to your spouse about it. Do you think our choices so far, our styles so far, will bet this vision? Let's sit down. Let's look at it. Let's think deeply. If I say no to snacks, indiscriminate snacks, and okay, want to teach our children self-discipline, want to use skills like delayed gratification. Delayed gratification simply means they should be able to hold on and wait. And one of the ways we can teach that is they don't get snacks whenever they ask for snacks. When someone gives them something, they can say, oh, thank you, and hold it back and come and show it to us, not eating it immediately. So that is lack of self-discipline. So have we been doing that? Because we actually want children who are self-disciplined. For a lecturer to say no to a female who comes to expose his or her labs because she wants to pass exams, the lecturer has to be self-disciplined. So, and with that self-discipline, we need to build it in our children from small. Are we building it already? You have this in-depth discussion, in-depth conversation with your spouse. Now, this is why the environment has to be calm, has to be relaxing, has to be comfy. I know it's not as easy as I'm saying it, because some spouses who are oppositional, they want to believe we are doing it well, we are doing it well. Now, this is why I said you need to seek knowledge. You need to invest in research, so that when you are talking about this, you are talking about, okay, this particular person, I actually read about him. Okay, this is kind of the picture I have of my child, for example. I read about this person, and this how this person turned out well. I read about the way he was raised. I read about the way she was raised. I remember reading about, what was this woman's name? I don't remember. She said she started cooking when she was 5 years old. She was living with her grandmother. Started cooking when she was 5 years old. That actually taught her responsibility, independence, and a lot of the skills that she needs today to be who she is. You actually want to show proof to your spouse. Show proof. Remember, it's just a conversation. You are just having it. I tell you, if your spouse doesn't even take you seriously, that if he doesn't believe you, he's going to go back and think it through. He's going to go back and reflect on it. So you want to give into research and make sure you are coming from a place of knowledge. It is very, very important, so that you have a superior voice in this. It is not a competition, but remember, you are the one that wants your spouse to be on the same page with you. So if you want your spouse to be on the same page with you, you have to humble yourself, commit to learning, commit to research, calmly work on your emotions. It's not going there to argue. No. Remember, this time we're talking about a structured environment. Now, in all of this, listen to your spouse, share his or her opinions. It is very important. Listen to them. Let them share their opinions. It is from sharing their opinions you know where they are coming from. You understand how they were nurtured. You understand their temperament. You understand their fears. Because the truth of the matter is, I always say, I have never seen a parent who doesn't want well for the children. I have never seen. So despite what you think your spouse is doing, despite your spouse's parenting choices, your spouse also wants good for your children. That is the truth of the matter. That is the truth of the matter. So you need to listen. Listen very well. Listen with empathy. Listen with understanding. Listen with an open mind to your spouse. That is one of the things you want to do. Listen and listen and listen attentively. Now, the next thing you want to do is to find a common ground. So look at where you have agreed on before. Your parenting, that's when you are talking to your spouse. Remember, I said you commit to knowledge. You are going to look at, okay, the parenting choices you have made before that kind of align, that are, how do I put it, align your parenting choices and his parenting choices or her parenting choices that were the same before. When you had a voice, it had the same voice, the effect of it. You want to look at all those things and talk about them. When you did not have the same voice, when you disagreed, the effect of it, you actually want to look at those things. After that, then you want to create your own parenting framework now. you have your vision. Okay, before creating your parenting framework, remember you have created values. You want to bring your values and talk about the values that will lead to your vision. And these values, you want to break them down into everyday practice, everyday behaviors, everyday practical steps. Break them down into everyday practical steps. And then you and your spouse will come together and create a constitution. Create a family constitution, a family framework, and I have a ready-made family constitution you can use. You can just use, you just take and just tweak here and there. It is just 2,000 naira. So you can ask for it, and I'll be glad. It's an ebook. It's easy. It's because you need to use it as a template to create yours. Okay, now having had all these discussions, both of you will find a common ground. Find a common ground. You have the same vision. You realize that you have the same vision. You want to raise successful children. So if you have the same vision, it's likely that you're going to have the same values. So what may be the issue is the application of the values, because values are ideas until they're acted upon. So how the values are broken down may actually be the issue. So you now break the values down into behaviors, into everyday practical behaviors, and how these children can uphold these values. Now, this is where family framework comes in, because for your values to be upheld, your atmosphere has to be such that it is nurturing, it is warm, it is nurturing for your child. So create your family rules, your goals, your expectations, set your boundaries, do them together as a family. Now, I know it is not easy. Some spouse will still not want to agree. I know this fact. I recognize this fact. They still don't want to agree. They will still believe, you want to spoil these children. Okay, let's again say you are saying, okay, let's not flog. Your spouse is saying, let's flog. So you want to spoil these children. You will not spoil my children for me. Now, this is where you want to come in again with superior wisdom. Ask your spouse for a while. Say, okay, if you think flogging these children is what will make them change. We have been flogging them all along, right? You have been flogging them all along. They have not changed. Let's do it this way. Just give me like 1 month to parent them without flogging them. When they do anything, refer them to me. Let me discipline them my own way. Let me not flog them. Give me 1 month. Let's see how it goes. If after 1 month you don't see any significant difference, then you can go on with the flogging. What do you want to achieve in this 1 month? One, in this space of 1 month, your spouse would have, his flogging habit would have been reducing. If he can live for 1 month without flogging, definitely, they say it takes 21 days to get into a habit, not a flogging habit anyways. So if he can take that long not to flog, it simply means that he is already adjusting gradually. Then that 30 days, you also want to amplify your own parenting tools and strategies that you want to use to get your children to behave or do whatever you want to do. Now, in the Visionary Parent Academy, we are also going to help you with how to get your children to behave without comply, to behave without. We have a course called 20 ways to discipline a child without flogging. It's going to run you through these things. At the end of the day, you have children who are more well behaved and more well cooperative than children who are necessarily flogged. So another reason why you need to just send me a message now. How can I join the Visionary Parent Academy? It's important. Don't say I'm not doing something for you. So like I was saying, if your spouse does not readily want to comply with you, does not see things from the angle you actually think is better, you want to ask for a period of time. Okay, give me 30 days. Let me test run this thing. Let's see how it goes. If it goes fine, then we adopt it. Now, one of the things you realize is that one thing that actually makes parents make their choices is impulsivity. They are very impulsive, which means they don't commit to self-care. Their emotions are always running and all of that. They are always pressured. You need to, if you actually want your spouse to be able to maintain that part of the bargain of him not interfering or jumping in, you need to now help him or her reduce the pressure, help him or her understand why they should commit to self-care and take self-care seriously, so that their mental state is in a healthy place. It has to be in a healthy place for them to be able to commit to their side of the bargain, of the agreement. I assure you that if you practice everything we've taught today, everything here, plus giving your spouse peace of mind, like we call it, help them reduce the pressure, help them understand self-care and commit to self-care, you are going to get results. You are going to, if you take action, your spouse is going to be on the same page with you. You are definitely going to get results. Now, the only reason you will not get results if your spouse has a character defect. There is something called character defect, and which I'll recommend you to see a counselor or a therapist. Because when people have character defects, they are so opinionated, they are so glued to a particular belief or mind system, and nothing can change it. So at this point, they will need to go into counseling to work on their character defect. However, I guarantee you that you are going to see results. You are going to get results if you put all those things into practice. Thank you so much for trusting me to do this with you today. Again, you want to join the Visionary Parents Academy. It's something you don't want to miss. You don't know. You don't know. There, you get to be held by the hand to parent. You have a vibrant community. You have parents who are actually committed to parenting with a vision, who have a vision for their children, and we are committed to parenting with a vision. If you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe. If you are seeing me for the first time, thank you and welcome. You are in the right place. Parenting with Enime. Do well to subscribe, do well to share, do well to leave a comment, and do well to invite everyone to join this wonderful community. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.